add value to your business, or do you want to just be this administrative person?
And often if you look at your talent team and the caliber of talent in your company, they correlate.
You could hire the best person for the job if they were in your candidate pool.
All these individual employees, one by one, together, their voices all come together to articulate the culture of the company.
We should have a competitive advantage with our own talent relative to the people that are out there that are not within our walls today. So you need to not think of yourself as the owner of those employees. You're a steward.
Greetings, Hiring on All Cylinders fans. This is Britt Ryan back once again. Head of recruiting at Intel. That is it, once again.
I know.
Who else is? Wait. Who else is here with me? Is that Sean?
Oh, it's
Simmerly?
Sean. It's Sean Simmerly.
No
I know
way.
You're surprised. You're really surprised.
I am really surprised.
Gosh, it's only been, I think, 20 at this point, but hey, you know.
I know, but the good news is that our third companion keeps changing, and they've just been getting better and better.
I know, and the guest sitting with us right now has had quite a journey as far as different professions, and we're excited to kind of dive deep into it.
Absolutely, yeah. Chris, Louie
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So you are the SVP of Talent at Nielsen.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm doing a little bit of sleuthing around. Yeah, I'm going to meet with this guy, Chris, and I'm like, this guy's got a really interesting background. So first off, he's from New Jersey.
That I am.
I love that. I'm from New Jersey. So I knew that I was going to like talking to you from the get-go.
She's had a couple connections already with other New Jersey
Is that
folks.
right?
Yes.
I have, yes. I'm a proud Jersey girl.
We'll go listen to some Springsteen later.
I'm in.
I'm in too. I'm not even from Jersey, but the boss, anytime you want.
Absolutely. So you have had some interesting moves in your career, though. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about Nielsen, where you are, and
Sure.
that you're the SVP, not only of talent, but also of people analytics.
That's right.
So would love to hear about that, but also would
Yep.
love to hear how on earth you became that person, from all of the conversations that we've been having with people at HR Tech, and we've been talking about, how people reinvent themselves in careers and,
Sure.
and internal mobility. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you were like the case study for it.
Yeah, I'm like a non-millennial, I guess.
Amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm not millennial, like in the sense that I've actually only worked for 3 companies.
Mm-hmm.
But as you pointed out, if you look at my CV or LinkedIn profile, a lot of hops within those companies, especially hops that go, pretty far along on the jungle gym.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off out of undergrad in a financial analyst program. So rotational program, 3 years, did some corporate finance, did some treasury, did some strategy-ish stuff, kind of M&A-ish stuff at Lucent Technologies, which was a telecom equipment manufacturer, no longer really in existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a subdivision of Nokia.
Uh-huh.
Went to business school after that, ended up going into consulting. So worked at McKinsey for a few years, where you tend to do kind of random stuff.
They are
in
very, very
consultancy.
good at recruiting MBAs, too.
They are. They have they bring in an army of MBAs, and they have a finely tuned recruiting machine.
Yeah.
For sure. And then after McKinsey, after those 4 years, came to Nielsen now 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at Nielsen, originally came in a product strategy role, did that for about a year, and then moved into what were essentially a few different roles within product marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So we were launching one of our big digital products, and I helped lead the go-to-market on that. And then when we bought another company which had a really well-defined product marketing group, we realized the go-to-market was really product marketing, just by a different name. And so we combined those groups. I was able to lead a big part of that and did that for a few years. So again, strategy and then product marketing. And then about 2 years ago, the head of HR at the time approached me and said, "Hey, Chris, we want to get more digital as a company. You know what our digital strategy is because you helped develop it in the product strategy role. You know where we're going from a commercial and a product, digital commercial and digital product perspective, because you did product marketing. Help make our people more digital." And first I said, what does that mean? And then, essentially it was all the things that you might think, right? Get people to be kind of more innovative and agile and actually understand where digital advertising, ad tech, digital media, and e-commerce was going. And then, help make our talent the talent that we need in the future, not just the talent that we need now. And I thought about it for a little while, and I said, well, I had never really thought about HR before, but I was always interested in people-related stuff as extracurriculars. And you know what? If I make a change here and have some impact here, that could be the biggest thing I could do at the company versus going on and, I don't know, taking on like a big product or taking on one big client, because this would affect us around the world.
Right.
We have 40,000 people at our company. We hire roughly 9,000 people every year. So it's kind of a big load. And if we can do that just a little bit better, that could have a major impact on the company. And that's what led to the talent acquisition experience. Did that for the last 2 years. And then roughly 3 months ago, I also took on people analytics.
Okay.
So that's the walk.
Yeah.
Did a lot of different corporate functions in there, did some finance, did some marketing, and now doing some HR.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
Were there things that you did along the way or that you felt that your company offered to you in terms of learning and development that prepared you for making those moves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this actually speaks really well to a talk that I'm going to be giving tomorrow at HR Tech about internal movement. I'm a little bit the poster child for that.
Yeah, totally.
I was able to jump from product strategy to product marketing into HR and various parts of HR at that. And I think it speaks to how Nielsen really does value not just the specific expertise that people have in a given area, but the intangibles. Are you a good leader? Are you a good manager of people? Are you yourself, do you have a lot of ownership, right? Do you put all of yourself into what you're taking on? Do you work really, really well with other people? These sound like super basic things, but if you can get these things right, then somebody that can get that right in one place can probably do really well in someplace else is our mentality around this.
Sure.
I mean, it's so impressive. And we were talking about this, I think it was yesterday, but about how skill-based kind of vetting for candidates is so important, and I think where things are going, because someone might not go to a four-year institution or they might do something totally different.
Right.
And it sounds like that's what Nielsen did with you, is they didn't just say, oh, this is someone that has this. They okay, you have all of these different things.
Right. It was more like, this guy doesn't know how to do this.
But he has the other pieces that are going to make it, like once he learns this, a phenomenal fit. And so how are you going to be able to continue that in your recruiting at Nielsen now, kind of overseeing that? Like, how are you going to continue to seek out skills, not just a CV?
Absolutely. I mean, part of this, so with my talent acquisition hat on, a big part of it is working with our recruiters to help them work with hiring managers when they have that critical upfront conversation, that kickoff call. Look at what the hiring managers are saying they want, right? And we've all seen this, who have been, those of us who have been in the recruiting space. You get the really, really, really long list of requirements, right? And those are, that those are not all requirements for somebody to be successful. And in fact, I might argue that most of the things that are probably listed there are not really requirements. They're more like screening criteria to make it easier. So have the conversation about, what are you really looking for? What do you really need for somebody in this role to be successful? And let's target that. Let's get at that. And let's not lose all the other stuff, but let's keep it on the page, but let's put it into the, maybe it's the nice to have list, maybe it's the additional considerations, but focus in on those requirements, the most critical things, and then look for candidates that meet that need. And from an internal movement perspective, I would say, we're trying to promote to our recruiters, hey, think internal candidate first. And why do that, right? It sounds good to employees, but why do that? If you're thinking about it from a pretty strategic perspective, strategic recruiting perspective, we should have a competitive advantage with our own talent relative to the people that are out there that are not within our walls today.
Absolutely.
They've been part of Nielsen. They know what we're all about. They have built-in relationships here. They've invested in the place, right? And we've seen them in action. We have game tape on them.
Yeah.
We don't really have game tape on other people.
Yeah.
So we should be looking at that first.
Absolutely.
Don't just look at that. And there are things that we need from the outside world that we don't already have in Nielsen, but let's be aware of that. Let's think about that. Let's be targeted in that way. But let's start internal first. Yeah.
Well, and also it's just when you talk about retention, or even for you, the many lives that you've had at Nielsen, like that's why you've been at so few companies over the course of your career, because you don't need to go outside to look for stimulation.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the ability to actually move around. So now with my people analytics hat on, one of the things that this group did, and this study happened before my time, but about a year and a half ago, so it's not remotely close to out of date, and there's some eternal truths in here. We looked at the attrition for a pretty big group within our company, right? So all the people that left, right? And we looked at the characteristics of those people, and what we found, and as well as the people that stayed, right? And what we found is that the biggest factors that would lead you to predict that people were going to leave were when they did not have any kind of movement in their career for 2 years plus. And movement can be a promotion and getting more responsibilities. Movement can be a geographic move, even if you're doing the same thing. Movement can, of course, be doing something different at the same level, lateral, right? And so we saw that, and as a result of that, that specific group did a lot of things to try to encourage movement. For example, we allowed people in a system that we're using to virtually put their hand up, right? Raise your hand saying that you're open to new opportunities, and specify what some of those things might be. Listen, there's a big culture change that you need to drive, right? A lot of change management around internal movement. Why is that? Because if you think about it from the team manager's perspective, you're kind of incentivized to keep the winning team together, right?
Absolutely.
Totally.
Like, who wants to break up the championship team? From the perspective of the HRBP that's supporting them, similar kind of thing. Am I trying to introduce a bunch of disruption into the system?
Yeah.
Probably not,
Yeah.
But the thing is, and what we all know, is that when people don't, again, point of that study, when people don't have movement, they're out of here.
Yeah, the entire company loses that person, not just that business unit.
Yeah.
That's right. So you need to not think of yourself as a team leader, as the owner of those employees. You're a steward, right?
And a facilitator. Yeah.
Exactly. That's right.
Is that something that you educate your employees on, like from onboarding?
Yep.
Like, what does the employee life cycle look like? And then I'm also curious, and this is sort of a tack-on question, around your recruiters and how are they, like, is there somebody who actually helps people internally? Is that a dedicated person or team, or what does that look like? Yeah,
it's a good question. So in terms of how we introduce this concept and continually reinforce this concept of internal movement, you see a lot of different things. Yes, it happens in onboarding discussions so that people develop that expectation up front. We also have what we call manager excellence training for any new managers. And in there, again, this idea of you're not an owner, you're a steward is reinforced for them, right? As well as even going beyond that, the responsibility to actually develop and encourage movement. And then, frankly, it also comes back to what your executives are saying to, large swaths of the employee base on a regular basis. Our CEO talks about his own personal internal movement all the time. And when you hear that and when you see that, you role model, right? And so those are some of the things that we do. And we also have dedicated campaigns. So in Dubai, right, and what we call our emerging markets, there was a campaign. This is definitely going to date myself in it, so it'll be clear that I'm not a millennial. But do you guys remember that song? Like, I like to move it. I'm not going to do that.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, it's from some cartoon. I have kids, and I always think of that zebra, right? The zebra, like
Ice Age, I think.
Is it Ice Age? I don't
One
know.
of those.
That's the more recent incarnation. That was actually like one, a Billboard hit at one point in time. Probably too long ago. I'll be embarrassed by you pulling up the date. But so that group started a campaign called the Move It. I like to move it campaign.
Classic.
Wherein little video clips, leaders kind of talking about movement, and then they'd play the song, and then those guys would dance.
See, you guys were Giphy before Giphy even existed.
Well, they never got me on camera. So again, continual reinforcement as well as finding those junctures at which it makes sense to introduce this concept to associates in general and then managers, right? Really critical, and of course in HR as well. Back to your other question around who's responsible, like that is one of the things that we found with regard to internal movement. It's kind of one of those common good sort of things, right? Where, hey, it's everybody's responsibility, and so it's nobody's responsibility. And so what we've tried to do is a few things. Try to break down the responsibility into parts that actually fit into people's workflow. So for example, for the recruiters, what is their ultimate responsibility? Their ultimate responsibility is to find the best talent for those openings. And, the argument to them is that the best talent is comprised of both people on the outside as well as people on the inside. So if you're so what we highlight for them is internal sourcing of internal talent. Like that's on you. Like you have to be responsible for that. You need to do that and drive that, right? We also have another group called Talent Engagement and Development. Other companies call it Learning and Development, and they are looking at they are the ones who run what we call talent reviews, right? So twice a year, groups get together, highlighting the different employees on the team and who to look out for and who's ready for a move. So that process is very, very helpful to create lists of folks that we want to make sure we're putting opportunities in front of. And then that group even dives in, especially at the executive level, and helps make some of those matches as well. Wow.
There are so many things I want to keep talking about. I'll ask at least one more, and then we'll see where we're at. I have to. And it's actually about a podcast. So Nielsen has a talent podcast. Is that right?
Yes.
How did that start? What is the purpose of it? Give me a little rundown.
Yeah, so when I came into the talent acquisition role, what I realized is that we weren't really doing talent marketing. We market Nielsen a lot in the world, but we're principally targeting customers. We're even targeting investors, but we're really not targeting talent. We're not talking about on a regular basis what it's like to work at Nielsen and why that might be both compelling and interesting, and attractive to talent. And so what we decided to do, instead of reinventing the wheel to get our talent marketing going, is pick things that we found out in the world that were really popular today with people, right? What are the things, especially in a digital environment, what are things that people like to consume? So we did start a podcast. It's kind of modeled after the Mark Maron, WTF podcast.
Yeah, totally.
Nice.
Where, it's one-on-one, sitting down, riffing with somebody about their history, right? Where have they been? What are they doing right now? What's exciting about what they do? We're a little bit shorter than Mark Maron's, marathon podcast.
His last a while.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of the things we do. Another thing that we did was kind of liberally steal from Humans of New York, if you're familiar with that, right? And so we have on our Instagram and our Facebook page photos of employees along with, a quote, right? Talking about their experience at Nielsen. Pretty short, pretty simple, but the amount of engagement that we see with that, both with candidates as well as our own employees, is huge, right? And you want to reinforce to your own employees, hey, this is a great place to work, and here's why. Yeah, so those are some of the things that we've done from a talent marketing perspective. The one thing, if I could go back a sec, that I forgot to mention around asking trying to get recruiters to take responsibility for internal candidate sourcing. Yeah. So easier said than done, right? If you think about recruiters, I don't know how many recs your recruiters handle. It varies.
Not nearly as many as yours. I'm
sure of that. A lot, right? And so to ask them to handle those, as well as to network all around the company and have, kind of the omniscient view of who are all the talent out there that could match with these jobs, it's hard for them. So what we've done is we're working with a startup called Twine to help solve that challenge, at least the discovery of talent challenge, through technology. And so effectively what they're doing is they're taking our information about employees, they're taking our information about our jobs, and they're taking some external data from out in the marketplace, and they're bringing all that together in order to create what I think of as kind of the shortcut to the short list of great talent for openings, right? It's great internal talent for openings. So the experience is, if you're a recruiter, you go in, right? You look at your recs, which are already there, click on a rec, and then you'll have 5 to 10, hopefully really great candidates to choose from. And even if only 2 or 3 of them seem like they're really relevant, hey man, that's like 2 or 3 really great leads.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. Got to help the recruiters.
I know. I'm just thinking, have you guys thought about that too with, whether it's alumni, or I think that's also part of the challenge, that so many people find, is that you have people who have applied over the course of time who may not have been right for that job in that moment, but sort of how do you source against the people who've already said, hey, I'm interested in Nielsen? Yeah,
absolutely. I would say that we don't do a great job yet with, so-called silver medalists, right? We don't have a CRM that we're using right now. but we've thought a lot about it.
Surely.
And so, unfortunately, I feel like the lists of potential great candidates for the future are largely sitting on, Google Sheets, right? On people's computers. At least you could share those.
Yep.
But yeah, we know we need to kind of try to overcome that. Right now, it is still more of the memory and, I remember somebody who might be good for that role, but we need to figure out how to solve that.
Makes sense. And what's the name of your podcast?
The name of the podcast is the Nielsen Experience Podcast.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for the time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
great
it.
meeting you.
Great to meet you as well.